Um, has it started? It hasn't started recording, sir.
I clicked
Yes,
start.
sir. It
Yes,
has
it
started
has.
now. It has started.
Okay. So
Thank you.
this I have to do every day, or it is once done is over?
No, no, sir. If you can do this every class, just at the starting of every class, it will be
Acha.
helpful for us.
No, what I'm saying is every time this is to be done, na?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, okay, no problem.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, so can you see the slides now?
Yes, sir.
Full screen. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is geometrical modeling of the woven fabric, and first we will discuss Pierce geometry. Let us first understand what is a model. You must have done so many models in your school. You prepare some model, but here the model is little bit different. Maybe the overall meaning is same. By definition, model is a description or an analogy used to help visualize something that cannot be directly observed. You must have seen every day in the newspaper a lot of real estate advertisements. Such and such builder is making this building, that building, and you see so many pictures of the building. Those are not real building, simply the models of the building shown to you, from where you can imagine, okay, this kind of building is going to come up. So the model simulates the behavior or activity of systems, process, or some phenomena. They include the use of mathematical equations, computers, and other electronic equipment. When we talk of models for textile structure, some of the theoretical models that are used in the formulation of textile structures, they are classified as given here. You will find some geometrical model, some mechanistic model means where we develop a model for mechanical properties where we predict, let's say, tensile strength of a material, bending rigidity of a material, compressional behavior of a material, those what we call mechanistic models. Some energy model, finite element theory model, where you must be knowing, if some of you have come across the packages like Abacus, ANSYS, where we try to predict. These are basically numerical methods based on some programming. We can also predict some mechanical properties. And empirical models. Empirical models means the models which are developed based on experiment. Statistical analysis means there are many phenomena which cannot be directly expressed by derived mathematical equations, but we can only carry out experiment, observe the trend, then write down an equation which explains the phenomena in that particular experiment. Those are called empirical formula, and we take the help of statistics for interpretation of the results. Okay, so but this lecture is now for purely geometrical model, and it will continue for about 5-6 lectures. So geometrical model of a fabric. The geometrical model is mainly concerned with the shape taken up by the yarn in the warp or weft cross section of the fabric. The diagram which I have sent you, it's basically a geometry of the cross section of a fabric. You can take such kind of cross section both in warp way or weft way. The figure which I have sent you, the cross section is taken in weft way. That means the circle which you see is the cross section of the weft, and the longitudinal yarn is the warp yarn. So it represents what that diagram which I have sent you, what it basically means. It represents a unit cell, because it's a plane woven fabric, one up, one down. You know how a plane woven fabric is represented. I'll show you some diagrams subsequently. So it represents a unit cell interlacement of warp and weft yarn. The model quantitatively describes the geometrical parameter of the fabric, and we'll learn all detailed geometrical parameters in this lecture. This model was first developed by Professor F.T. Pierce in England, and this work was first published in Journal of Textile Institute 1937, volume 28. So you can also have a look to this publication. If you click this JTI 28 1937, you can see the detail of these models. So what is the objective of studying fabric geometry? First, prediction of the maximum set. You understand what is the meaning of set? Means ends per inch, peaks per inch. That is thread density, warp and weft. That's called set of a fabric and fabric dimension. Second, find out the relationship between geometrical parameters. Means if this will be EPI, this will be PPI, or if this is end density, peak density, or yarn count, then what will be the cover factor? Then what will be thickness of the fabric? Then what will be other properties? So this model helps us to determine the relationship between various geometrical parameters of the fabric. The third objective is prediction of mechanical properties. With the help of this geometry, we can also predict mechanical properties like how much will be tensile strength, how much will be bending rigidity, how much will be compressional modulus, or how much will be shear rigidity. Everything we can do. And throughout this course, you will see with the help of this geometry, we try to determine all these mechanical properties. And finally, understanding fabric performance means hand of the fabric, what will be surface properties of the fabric, what will be coefficient of friction, what will be roughness of the fabric surface, and many other properties we can determine. We call it fabric performance. Okay. So there are several advantages of doing this kind of geometrical modeling. Basically, it helps to understand the relationship between various geometrical parameters of the fabric. It helps us to calculate the resistance of the cloth to mechanical deformation. For example, extension, bending, shear, compression, and so on. It provides information on the relative resistance of the cloth to passage of air, water, light, what you call permeability behavior. Permeability means transmission behavior, transmission of water, transmission of air, transmission of light, or transmission of electricity, that is static charge. So such kind of behavior can also be determined from this. So finally, it guides to the maximum density of yarn packing possible in the cloth. This is also, there will be one lecture on this. Means if you are given all the geometrical parameters, is it possible to determine how many maximum thread can be inserted or incorporated in a particular fabric? That also we can know, and it is very useful because, as you know, if you go on changing the thread density in a fabric, most of the fabric properties are changed, and it is essential. We have a particular lecture on this maximum density of yarn in a fabric. So when dealing with this model, what we will deal? We will deal with weave, thread density, crimp, and yarn count. Only these four parameters are necessary to completely deal with this model. And I hope you all know this. Weave design, you know, whether it is plain, twill, satin, etc., which will basically give you interlacement of warp and weft yarn. Thread density, you know, basically ends per inch, picks per inch. Crimp, I have told you something maybe in the last class. Today I'll explain it, how crimp is determined by this model, and the count of yarn. Okay, count can be given in any system, maybe English count or maybe text or denier value, whatever way you want to. From the two-dimensional unit cell, the diagram which I have given you, it is a two-dimensional unit cell of a plain woven fabric. Geometrical parameters such as thread spacing, thread diameter, weave angle, crimp, and fabric thickness, they are all related. And we can have equations for all these parameters in this model. So this is how a plain woven fabric looks like. You understand all these diagram. This is the cross section. If you take actual cross section, you will find the fabric from the cross section side. It looks like this. Some more. So this is what I was telling. This is crimp. Look at my cursor, how it is moving. So this is crimp. The waviness in the yarn because of the interlacement at the crossover points. Okay, and this is how it is geometrically represented. So I have already sent you this diagram. So small d is the diameter of yarn, and I have already told you suffix 1 and 2 represent warp and weft thread. Whenever you find 1, it refers to warp yarn, 2 means weft yarn. So d is the diameter, d1 will be dia of warp, d2 will be dia of weft. P is the thread spacing. Look at the diagram, what is P? P1, P2. P2 is the spacing between two weft thread. This is one weft, this is another weft. So center to center, this distance P2, distance between two weft thread. Similarly, if I take the cross section in warp way, P1, okay, this cross section is in weft way. H is crimp amplitude. What is the amplitude? You understand amplitude. This is a wave amplitude, that is H. For warp yarn it will be H1, for weft yarn it will be H2. Theta is the weave angle. Today we will explain this. This angle is not shown here, and this angle is basically, look at, this is center of the weft yarn, and if I join from this point to this point, the touching, this is the point from where this warp yarn just detached from the weft yarn. So this angle from here to here is theta, that is weave angle, and by geometry if you will calculate, this angle will be exactly same as this angle theta 1 shown here. Okay, then L is called modular length. So modular length is from this point, look at my cursor, from this point, this distance from up to this. So modular length means length of warp yarn from center to center in this path, that is modular length. And what you will find, this modular length has 3 distinct zones. What are those 3 distinct zones? Try to understand. From this point to this point, what I can divide into 3 zones. First, the arc. Look at my cursor. From here to here is one arc. Then also if I join this, from here to here another arc, and from this point to this point is a straight line. So I can find out the length of this arc if I know this angle, if I know this radius. Similarly here also, if I know those radius and angle, you can find out this arc, and in between there is a straight path, that is a straight line. So that means if I assume this modular length is L, that means this straight portion will be L minus double of this arc, because it is the same circle, it is the same circle. So this arc plus this arc, twice of this arc length. So what will be this straight portion? Complete length is L. L minus twice of this arc will be the straight portion of this modular length, and half of this modular length is L1 by 2 as shown here, L1 by 2. But the whole thing is L1 and this is half of the L1 by 2. And why it is 1? Because this is warp yarn. If I take the cross section in the warp way, warp way, this length will be L2. Okay, so every time this concept will continue. C is the crimp. So in this case, the crimp is shown here for warp yarn. So it will be C1, and if I take in other way, it will be C2. Okay, C1 means crimp in warp yarn, C2 means crimp in weft yarn. So this is how all these parameters are indicated in this diagram. Look at this capital D. Capital D is simply D1 plus D2. D1 is the diameter of warp yarn. D2 is the diameter of weft yarn. D1 plus D2 is capital D. From here to here. Okay. Similarly, here H1 by 2, H2 by 2. And from this point to this point, in this direction, sum total will be H1. But remember, this H and D are not the same. The reason being, there is a gap between. It's not that geometrically we are calculating, there is no gap calculation wise. But if you take the crimp amplitude, it's not exactly there is a gap, because you will find between these two yarns there is a gap. That's why this H is different from D. I will come to this point later where you can very clearly understand how this H is different from D, because H1 plus H2 is not exactly same as D1 plus D2. It is different. Normally H1 is little higher than the D. Okay, so coming forward, to have all these geometrical relationship in this model, we have certain assumptions. Last class, I have already told you this yarn is flexible. So yarn is compressible, as you know, is a textile yarn. When you try to press it, it gets compressed. But the diagram which we have drawn looks like everything is solid. The yarn looks like a circular, a cylinder, and the cross section is a circle. That's why there are some assumptions in this model to get the correctness in the geometrical calculation. What are those assumptions? Number one, yarns are infinitely flexible. We are assuming yarn is flexible. See, if yarn will not be flexible, how it will be wrapped over? How this warp is wrapped over this weft yarn, as if it is just exactly touching to its circumference. So we are assuming yarns are infinitely flexible. That means yarns have no flexural rigidity. There is no bending rigidity of the yarn. It can bend the way we want. That is the first assumption. Second assumption, yarns have circular cross section, as you see here. We have done this, but a real yarn, it's not a metallic rod, it's not a steel rod. The cross section cannot be exactly a circle, but we are assuming the cross section of yarn is a complete circle, perfect circle. That is second assumption, which is not true. Yarns are incompressible. If yarns will be compressible, then the shape will not be like this. The shape will be something different. It will not be a complete cylinder, or it will not be a complete circle. But what we are assuming, just to get the mathematical corrections, mathematical accuracy in our model, we are assuming the yarns are incompressible. It cannot be compressed, which is actually practically not true. Yarns are always compressible. Yarns are inextensible. We are also assuming yarn cannot be extended, but which is not true. Yarn is to some extent elastic. When there is some load, it gets extended. And finally, shape of yarn axis in unit cell is composed of circular and linear segment. This point I have already explained you. This is what about your modular length. What I have told you, look at in this diagram. This modular length, which is from here, look at my cursor, from here to here, consists of this straight path from here to here plus two arc, this arc and this arc. So that is what written here. Shape of yarn axis, this is the axis of yarn. Shape of yarn axis in a unit cell, the whole diagram is a unit cell, composed of a circular and a linear segment. So this is a circular segment and this is a linear segment. That is what all these 5 assumptions to proceed further in this model to make the relationship among all these parameters. So this assumption is very, very important. You have to understand these assumptions. As I explained, it's very simple, that is not much difficult, but you have to always remember these assumptions. Under these assumptions, only remaining parameters, remaining mathematical equations can be determined. Otherwise, it is not possible. Okay. Now, what is the basic approach in this model? The approach is Peirce developed this model. He tried to predict the fabric behavior, compared the predicted values with experimental data, which we do in every modeling. Whenever you will come across, when you will try to do your project also in BTP, if some of you will do some project in a modeling, when you develop a model, when you develop some mathematical equations, how will you ensure that the equation which you have developed, the model which you have developed is correct or not? That is only possible. You make a model, predict the values from your model using your mathematical equation or using your computer programming. Then you develop a sample, test it, see the experimental value, compare your experimental value with your model value. If the deviation is very small, if error is very small, let's say 2%, 3%, then we call the model is correct. Our approach is okay. If you get an error like 10%, 15% or 30%, then obviously the model which we have developed or the equations which we have developed in this model is not correct. Then you try to go for some modification of your model. So you try to find out what mistakes you have done. Then you take necessary measures so that model can be rectified to get a result which must be very close to your experimental values. It can never be exactly equal to experimental values because it's not an ideal case. There will be some error, and particularly in this case there will be enough error because, as I have already told you, we have already taken all these assumptions. In actual yarn, this is not true. Since this model is developed based on all these assumptions, the experimental value, when you take an actual fabric based on this dimension and we test for their properties, it will not be exactly the same as we get in case of model because of these assumptions. And that is what we get, and you will see also subsequently. Okay, so this is what about the basic approach of the Peirce for this model. Peirce suggested 2 models. We will discuss both the models. First, we will discuss flexible thread model and second is rigid thread model. The basic fundamental difference between these 2 models is flexible thread model is a purely geometrical model, whereas rigid thread model is a realistic physical properties of yarn are considered. So you understand what is now realistic properties. You have already seen the assumptions. If you remove those assumptions, so all the properties will be realistic. So rigid thread model considers a realistic approach, whereas flexible thread model based on some assumptions. Then in flexible thread model, real shape of yarn path not considered. We cannot take the real path of yarn because you have already seen how we are considering path of yarn. But in rigid thread model, the deformation produced by application of system of force and couples are considered. Means you try to understand what I mean this. You see, in our model, what you are assuming, the path of yarn is like this, which is not exactly true. We are just assuming the yarn, this warp yarn is touching exactly in this circle to this yarn. So in flexible thread model, we are assuming this. But in rejected model, what will happen? We'll take a real value. Real value means how much it will touch, how much it will touch, or what will be its shape. It depends on what is its bending rigidity. So in rejected model, we first try to find out what is the rigidity of this yarn and how much it is bent. Means when it will bend, it will make a curvature. And you know what is the relationship between curvature and the radius of curvature. So we try to find out what is the relationship between the radius of curvature and curvature so that we can find out how much it is bent. That means we try to incorporate the real path of yarn in this fabric if it is rigid thread model. Whereas in flexible thread model, real shape of path cannot be considered. Then the third difference between these two models is no concern about actual path of yarn, as I already said, because of this. Whereas in this, we take the actual path of yarn. That means we take all necessary measures to determine what is the real path of yarn in the fabric. So this is the three basic difference, fundamental difference between these two models, flexible thread model, rigid thread model. Right now, we are going to discuss only flexible thread model. Okay, both the models are useful. When all these things will be covered, you will realize yourself how these models really help to determine the properties of the fabric. Okay, so every time you will find the same diagram everywhere. So you need not worry about this diagram. Same diagram which I have given you, I will show you because all the things are determined based on this diagram. And these are the same notations I am just trying to give you again so that you will be very clear. I have already explained all these: yarn diameter D1, D2, thread spacing P1, P2, modular length L1, L2, crimp amplitude H1, H2. We call it crimp amplitude or we call it crimp height, whatever the term. Weave angle theta1, theta2, and crimp in the yarn C1, C2. Okay, so these are total 6 parameters. Okay, look at by definition. Diagram is always same. Don't worry about the diagram. Every time you'll find the same diagram. Modular length, what exactly I have explained, but second time I have deliberately written so that you will be very clear about these parameters. You know what is modular length from here to here, and this is written in the language. Length of thread axis between axis of two consecutive cross threads. So this is cross threads. So between two consecutive cross threads, the distance in the axis, the actual distance is this much in fabric, but if you go by yarn, the distance will be this much. So when I try to find out the length of yarn, it will be L. When I go to see the length in the fabric surface is this. This is what this difference you have to understand. Thread amplitude, that is crimp amplitude or crimp height, H I have already told you. Weave angle theta1, theta2. Look at this theta1 here making by warp yarn, and when it will be made by weft yarn in other way cross section, you will find this value theta2. Then look at, if I want to find out what will be the crimp in the yarn, let's say crimp in warp yarn. So means you understand what is crimp. So crimp is this much. That means if I straighten this yarn, now it is in a curve shape. If I straighten this yarn, what will be actual length? So straighten the yarn means L, and here it is L1. But in fabric, the length is P2. So how much crimp is inserted here? L1 minus P2 over P2. This is the actual length of yarn in the fabric because it is bent portion, straight portion, then again bent portion. Sum total of arc and straight portion, that is L. It is warp yarn, that's why it is L1. Distance between two weft thread P2 is the real distance in the fabric P2. So crimp will be L1 minus P2 over P2. Crimp is a fraction. It can also be expressed in percentage if I multiplied by it 100. So crimp can be a fraction, always less than 1, or it could be multiplied by 100 expressed in percentage. Okay. So it is same thing written, C1 is equal to, if I divide by P2, L1 over P2 minus 1. This is C1. Exactly similar way, if I take this cross section in warp direction, C2 will be L2 minus P1 over 1. Just change the suffix, nothing else. We'll change the cross section. Now the cross section is waved way. This is waved, this is waved, this is warpian. If I take the cross section in warp way, so all 1 will be 2, all 2 will be 1. So C2 will be L2 minus P1 over minus 1. Okay. And I have already told you, if you multiply by 100, you can express this crimp in percentage. So crimp can be expressed both in fraction as well as percentage. Next. Crimp amplitude is maximum displacement. This is the definition I have already told you. That is H value, maybe H1 or H2. Now, look at this. D1 plus D2 is equal to H1 plus H2 is equal to capital D. DE, look at the diagram. This is D, this is E. From here to here means D is equal to DG plus GE. That is same as DH plus HE. DH plus HE. And I can write this D1 by 2, D2 by 2, H1 by 2, H2 by 2, or D1 plus D2 is equal to H1 plus H2 is capital D. So now we have introduced another term, capital D, which is nothing but D1 plus D2 or H1 plus H2 is equal to capital D. This is equation number 3. Our first equation was for crimp in warp yarn. Second equation was crimp for weft yarn. Third equation is now sum total of diameter, warp and weft, or sum total of crimp, warp and weft, which can be expressed in a new term called capital D. So remember, D1 plus D2 or H1 plus H2, they are equal to D. That is equation number 3. Now, can we determine from this geometry what is the thread spacing? In this diagram, thread spacing is P2, the distance between two consecutive weft yarn. This is one weft yarn, this is another weft yarn. So two consecutive weft yarn, center to center, distance is P2. Similarly, if you will take in the warp way, this distance will be P1. Now in this diagram, let us find out what will be the P2. P2 is equal to B dash B plus BF plus CC dash. Look at this. B dash B. Can you find out? You can very easily see this is B dash, this is B, then BF from here to F, the distance, then CC dash, CC dash. So what is the total distance? From here to here, then from here to here, and if you go this way, from here to here. This will be the total distance. These three. And we can express them in their symbols. B dash B D1 by 2, BF D2 by sine theta 1 plus CC dash is L1 minus D theta 1. How it is L1 minus D theta 1? Look at this. What is this distance? The total distance from here to here is L. So this straight portion will be the L minus sum of these two arc. And what is the distance of this arc? This angle is theta. And this is d by t, this is d by 2. That means this is capital D by 2. So this angle is theta. This radius you know, you can find out what is the length. Theta is equal to L upon R. So this you can find out this distance. Similarly, it will be exactly in the same distance. So how much will be the straight path? Complete distance L minus double of this arc. That is what written here. And if you know this distance, you know this angle, you can find out what is this distance. And total is P2 L1 minus d theta 1 cos theta 1 plus d sin theta 1. This is the thread spacing, means distance between two consecutive weft thread P2 is equal to L1 minus d theta 1 cos theta 1 plus d sin theta 1. Exactly similar way, you can find out the distance between two warp yarn. Just change the suffix, that's all. No need to do it again. Just change the suffix. P1 will be simply wherever 1, you just make 2, wherever 2, make 1. So equation number 4 is for weft spacing. Equation number 5 is for warp spacing, means distance between two consecutive warp yarn or distance between two consecutive warp yarn. Now,
Sir.
yeah.
Sir, can you explain d theta 1 again?
Oh, okay. Look at. From here to here is L. In this diagram, it is L1. Okay. To find out this spacing, what I'm saying, this spacing is this much plus from here to here plus here to here. Is okay? That means to know this much, we have to find out how much is this from this geometry. Then you can find out this distance. And what is this distance is? This distance is total, that is from A to D L1 minus this plus this arc. You can find out this arc. You know, this is an arc. Is L. L is equal to, you know, this theta is equal to L upon R. And R you can find out, this is our radius. And this is angle theta. You can find out this theta is equal to L upon R. And if you know this much, if you know this much, or this, because both are same, the angle is same. So sum total of this arc and this arc is that d theta 2. And you know this distance complete is L1. So L1 minus twice of this arc is equal to B and C.
So we are assuming theta is in radian, right?
Yeah, radian.
Okay. Thank you.
Theta is equal to L upon R means theta is always in radian. Okay. Now, next is H value. Is crimp amplitude. Again, the notations are given. You can yourself very clearly see this. H1 by 2 in this diagram is DH. Look at D. This is point H. That is H1 by 2. Similarly, now we are finding out H1. And what will be DH? DH is equal to DC dash plus C dash H. DC dash plus C dash H. Okay. And what is the DC dash? DE minus C dash E. DE minus C dash E. That will be DC dash. Just, you know, converting geometry so that you can find out a measurable quantity. And C dash H Cj. Just substitute the values. You will get very easily. You can find out what is the H1 is coming L1 minus d theta 1 sin theta 1 plus d into 1 minus cos theta 1 from this diagram. And you will find the value of H1. Then similarly, if you want to find out what will be H2, just change the suffix 1 to 2. This is how we get the value of crimp amplitude H1 and H2 represented in equation number 6 and 7. This is how we get 7 equations. First, crimp 1, crimp 2. Next, D1 plus D2 is equal to H1 plus H2 is equal to capital D. That is equation number 3. 4 and 5 was P1, P2. 6 and 7 equation is for H1 and H2. And I just repeat it. C1 this, P1, P2 this, H1 is this. Similarly, C2 this, P1 this, H2 this, and D1 plus D2 is equal to H1 plus H2 is equal to D. Diagram always remains same. Now I will give you in a single page all 7 equations. C1, C2, D1 plus D2 is equal to H1 plus H2 is equal to D, P2, P1, H1, H2. Diagram remains always same. You have to simply get by heart all these 7 equations in your fingertips. Every time in subsequent lectures throughout the semester, we will be using these 7 basic equations. Everything will be based on these 7 basic equations. All of you must remember these 7 equations anytime. And it's very simple, but you have to remember. Otherwise, if you don't remember these 7 equations, we cannot proceed further. That's the idea why I have given you this diagram. You look at every parameter and try to understand this. Now, I'm going to analyze first these 7 equations. What this analysis is, we have 7 independent equations now relating to 11 basic parameters. These are the 11 basic parameters. Capital D, H1, H2, P1, P2, L1, L2, theta 1, theta 2, C1, C2. These are the 11 basic parameters, and we have already derived using these 11 parameters, we have 7 equations. So obviously, if 7 equations, 11 parameters, if you know 4 parameters at least you have to know, then we can solve the equations for finding other 7 parameters. This is basic fundamental, in mathematics you must be knowing this. So at any point of time, we must know at least 4 parameters out of these 11. Then only you will be in a position to solve the equations to find out other 7 parameters. So every time we have to see if some points are given in numerical any problem, to find out you must see whether you are given 4 parameters or not. You need at least 4 parameters, and there are some deviations also. We will discuss time to time. What is written? Look at this. In fact, these equations are difficult to solve except when theta 1 and theta 2 are known. What this point exactly means? See, look at the diagram. Theta 1 and theta 2. Imagine actual fabric. Imagine real fabric. It's very difficult to measure what will be the value of theta 1. See, the model is not just for the sake of the mathematical purposes. The model is something which we must be in a position to utilize, or we must be in a position to solve the equations and authenticate our model. So we have to authenticate by taking some real life examples. And in this fabric, if you try to find out this value of theta, nobody can find out in a fabric what is the weave angle. It is very difficult to follow how much this distance, because will be fraction of a millimeter. It is very difficult to find out what will be this angle. So in actual solution, when you will be given a real life problem of this fabric, we will try to always eliminate this theta from this equation. The reason is simple, as I told you, because theta is very difficult to measure. So it is better. The equations are there because these ideal equations from the geometry. But whenever solving these equations, we will try to, we will try to find out the best possible ways to eliminate theta from these equations. Also, another parameter. It is not only theta, the value of L. Look at L from this point to this point. It is also very difficult to measure the length of this L in the fabric. So, if possible, we will also try to every time eliminate this L. so that our life will be simpler. Rest of the things we can measure. Diameter of yarn, you know already, we can measure it. Distance between two threads, we can measure it. H value, crimp amplitude, we can measure it. But this theta and L is very difficult to measure. That's why whenever it is necessary to solve these equations, we will try to eliminate this theta and L value if possible. Okay, this point you have to remember. What are the limitations of these geometrical model? First, fabrics are complicated materials that do not conform even approximately to any of these ideal features. What we have derived these equations, these are all ideal. You know this. The kind of geometry we have made, the circularity, the inflexibility, the bending rigidity, it's all ideal case. In real fabric, it's not true because yarn is flexible, yarn is compressible. The diameter is not constant, it is not circular. So what we have done is a very, very ideal case. Second, the measurement of geometrical parameter is not easy in practice. Therefore, validation of the model is difficult. The assumptions that we have taken in the model, if it is not true in real fabric, then obviously the validation is very, very difficult. Or if at all, when you will try to validate these models, you will find the error percentage very, very high. It's not 2, 3, 4%. It may be 20%. It may be 30% error. Error means the deviation between the your model value and experimental value. That is what the error percentage. The third point is the relationship between fabric mechanics. When I'm saying mechanics, normally we refer tensile, bending, shear, compression, all these mechanics means mechanical properties. To fabric geometry is not fully explored. Even today, although, see, this model was developed in 1937, it's now almost 80 years. Even as of today, these models are not fully explored. The reason being, people are using by crude methods, by what you call very non-scientific method. People try to measure. They're not using actual. The reason being, it's not that people are fool. The question is because our material is like that. It is very difficult to make a mathematical. It is very difficult to develop mathematical equations because the material is flexible. That's why last class I have already told you, textiles are not engineering materials. They are flexible materials. Okay, so every time you will find whenever we will derive some equations or make some models, you sometimes it will come in your mind why you are doing this. Is it realistic? Is it really going to affect our material properties? But it is. When it comes to technical textile, when it comes to a fabric where we need actual values, just I'll give an example. If you are wearing a cloth just to get rid of cold or hot, that's a different thing. But if you are wearing a cloth to just safeguard yourself from bullet, then you need actual parameter, because we know what is the size of the bullet, we know what is the velocity of the bullet, we know to what extent it can penetrate in our fabric. That means in such cases we have to be very, very careful. Or for example, you take an example of a filter cloth. If you want to filter some nanoparticles, if you want to filter some particle, we know the size of the particle which needs to be filtered. In that case, you have to be very, very accurate. Otherwise, the particle which you want to filter, it may not be the same particle. You try to filter some particle, but the actual filtration will be something different. So there are many such cases where we need to be very strict, very accurate in the dimension and the properties of the fabric. So in those cases, it may not be very, strictly required if you are making a apparel fabric, because if you have made a cloth to live in -5 degrees Celsius temperature, and if it is -6 degree, some person is not going to die. Maybe he will find some cold, but it's not necessarily the properties are to be very, very stringent. But in technical textile, as I told you, in applications where it is essential to meet the exact specification of the fabric. In those cases, you will find these calculations are very, very essential. We have only 2 minutes left. There are some relationship you will find, not necessarily, you can imagine, if you look at these relationship, you can imagine how these theories are used. This is fineness of yarn. If you measure the count of yarn and aerial density, mass, this relationship, in tutorial class, I'll give you, in one tutorial class, I have already given you yesterday the equations, how to calculate the aerial density. Today also in tutorial class, I will give this calculation. Sorry, I think today we don't have. Tomorrow and day after tomorrow in other groups, you will find this relationship. How if the fineness changes, how the mass density changes, aerial mass also changes. And similarly, if fineness changes, how the cover factor changes. If the set changes, weft set means thread density. If thread density increases, what happens to cover factor? Okay, these parameters you have not so far I have not discussed, but subsequently you realize if thread density changes, then how other properties changes. Similarly, there are many relations. You can see here in actual fabric, if you take projected view, you can see some of the holes in the fabric. Okay, and for example, another case study, you see, if you changes the this is a model value validation, experimental value versus calculation model value. So what is the correlation? And we try to find out this by regression analysis. So this is the regression equation where you can find out correlation of coefficient R value and R square value. If R square value is 0.9, then R value is 0.9, we say the model is very good. If the correlation is very, very less, 0.6, 0.7, then model is not that good. That is how we validate these results. But anyway, this is subsequently we will discuss all these points. So this is first lecture. I explained you 7 basic fundamental equations. Next class we will start how to solve these equations subsequently. Okay. Thank you. You can log out.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, will you upload the lecture slides?
No, you have to note down everything because I have already you have already recorded. You have to the speed will be such a manner you can always write down. Please, if you don't write, you cannot learn anything. So many equations. It's not 1 or 2 today. Every day you will find so many equations. I told you more than 200 formula. You have to write, practice, and do the numerical. It's not that easy. You cannot prepare this course overnight. Every year, 30 to 40 students fail. Every year, out of 100 students. So you have to please be sincere, try to understand, write down, practice, then only you can understand this. It's very different. It's not like other textile spinning and weaving course which you have done. Please try to be sincere and read. My speed will be such that you can write everything. Whenever there is a complicated diagram, I'll email you. Okay, you can log out.
Sir. Sir, won't you upload the PPT?
यही तो बोला अभी नहीं. आप ट्यूटोरियल क्लास में डिस्कशन कर लेंगे. Don't worry. Okay, you can log out.